The next morning, Ken hides behind a pole to mentally prepare himself to say good morning to Momo. However, when he reaches the school gate and sees Momo waiting there, he suddenly gets cold feet. He thinks she might be waiting for someone else, so he shyly ignores her. But then Momo bumps into him and says he's late. She starts talking about aliens that kidnapped her, and Ken listens, still in disbelief that a girl is talking to him. But when they get to class, Ken is treated the same way as always, which frustrates him. Still, Ken decides to forgive everyone because he's in a good mood today. Meanwhile, Momo is completely spaced out. Even when her friends shine mirrors at her, she doesn't react. They start worrying because she hasn't responded to their texts and wasn't at school yesterday. They think she might have gone back to her ex who rejected her, and now she's heartbroken. Momo sighs and lays down on her desk, and her friends think she's about to cry. But in fact, she's just trying to suppress the urge to talk about aliens with Ken. Ken, on the other hand, feels the same way and blames himself for not being able to respond to Momo's questions that morning. Both Ken and Momo decide to be patient and wait. During lunch break, they head to each other's classrooms, which are next to each other, but because of the large crowd, they miss each other. They check the cafeteria and snack distribution areas. But again, they miss each other. They sit on opposite sides of a hallway, each wondering if their friendship will ever work out. Ken worries that Momo must have realized that he's just a boring loser, while Momo feels that Ken must be irritated by her because she's too eager. They both start heading back to their classrooms, heads down in disappointment. But then they suddenly crash into each other in the middle of the hallway, sharing an accidental kiss. They freak out and realize they've been searching for each other, thinking the other one was avoiding them. The situation becomes incredibly awkward, and Momo tries to change the subject. At that moment, Momo's friends, who have been watching from the sidelines, speak up. They say Momo and Ken just kissed and ask if Ken is her rebound. Momo panics and says she would never kiss a nerd like him. Ken snaps back, saying he would never let a girl with such an attitude kiss him either. They start yelling at each other, saying they never want to see each other again, and go back to their classes. However, Momo's friends totally ship them. Ken goes to the restroom to clear his head, thinking about how he's going to apologize to Momo for this, but when he opens his zipper, he notices something's wrong with his body. Meanwhile, Momo's classmates surround her, teasing her about kissing a cute nerd. Momo gets flustered and insists it was all a misunderstanding. Just then, Ken bursts into her classroom, out of breath and sweating, telling her he needs to talk to her privately. Momo dismisses him, saying she doesn't want to talk. Her friends tease her for being so cold to her boyfriend, and Momo snaps at them, saying there's nothing going on between her and Ken. She tells them to shut up and says she doesn't feel like talking to him. Ken gets upset and quietly asks if she's embarrassed to be his friend, then leaves for his own class. After school, Ken heads out, wondering if Momo is still mad at him. He accidentally bumps into a pink-haired girl, who apologizes and asks if he's okay. Ken freaks out because she's pretty and is treating him kindly. As she gets more friendly, Ken feels his heart racing. At that moment, Momo comes by, feeling guilty for making Ken feel bad all day. She plans to apologize to him, but when she sees him talking to the pink-haired girl, she gets jealous. She thinks Ken lied to her about not having any friends. The pink-haired girl leaves after her friend arrives, and they start talking about how clueless Ken was, thinking that girl was genuinely interested in him. Momo gets furious and uses her psychic powers to drop a tub on the girl's head. Ken looks worried about Momo, but then she suddenly clings to him, cheerfully saying they should go home together. Ken is confused, but Momo just gives the pink-haired girl and her friends a side eye as she drags him away. After that, Momo apologizes for her rude attitude at lunch, explaining that she was embarrassed about the accidental kiss, not about being friends with him. Ken is touched by her apology but suddenly remembers there's something more important he wanted to discuss. Momo asks what it is, and Ken says, "My balls are gone." Momo immediately takes him to her house, where she can't stop laughing while Ken explains the problem to Seiko. He says that when his sausage came back, he thought everything was fine, but didn't notice that his eggs were missing. Seiko is disappointed that he realized this so late but says she'll take a look at it. Ken freaks out because he doesn't want to show his private parts to Seiko, but Seiko says she's going to look into his soul. She sets up a tub of water for Ken to dip his feet in, along with a doll and a talisman. She then takes a fan and smacks Ken, and he freaks out, thinking she's just messing with him. When Seiko smacks him again, Momo says she saw Ken's aura shift when she hit him. Seiko is sure that the aura is not Ken's but belongs to another entity hiding inside him. She tells Momo to pull it out the moment Seiko smacks Ken again. Both of them get ready. Seiko smacks Ken, and Momo tries to grab the aura, but it slips out of her hands and vanishes. She panics, but Seiko points to the doll. The talisman burns, and the spirit that was inside Ken becomes trapped in the doll. The doll suddenly comes to life and runs away before Seiko can catch it, but Momo finds it using her psychic powers. She grabs the doll with her power and opens the door to find it struggling on the floor, cursing them. The doll reveals that it is Turbo Granny. Ken and Momo are shocked because Turbo Granny was defeated in their last fight. The doll explains that when her body hit the barrier and started burning, she changed into a spirit form and possessed Ken's body. Now, without enough spiritual energy, she's been waiting to regain it so she can have her revenge. Ken demands she return his balls, but Turbo Granny laughs, saying that if he kills her, he won't get them back, and if he wants them, he has to kill the two women. Ken gets furious, and in his rage, he suddenly transforms into a superhuman form, shocking everyone. Seiko realizes that Turbo Granny was holding onto Ken so tightly that only her consciousness was expelled when Seiko hit her with the fan that expels evil spirits, but her power remained within Ken. Seiko takes advantage of the situation and starts smacking Turbo Granny with the fan. Momo calls for a truce and tells the ghost that she doesn't really hate her because she sympathizes with the girls who were wronged. She offers to return Turbo Granny's powers if she gives Ken his marbles back. Turbo Granny agrees, but says that Ken's marbles aren't with her anymore because she dropped them somewhere.